Welcome to Ranch Simulator. In my last video on this game, I demolished Grandpa's house, made poor financial decisions, figured out the social concept of money,
banana,
and never found out how to truly step away from my crippling debt. So today, I do the exact opposite. Today, the goal is to use everything in a process to make money. This includes materials, vehicles, tools, quests, plants, and animals. Whether it's for building something, transporting me from A to B, or can help me make money in any way possible, I need to use it. I will not stop until these numbers are the same. With that out of the way though, I'll let this long curse of an idea begin. At the start of the game, a player must choose between two options. Go through the tutorial, which is a pretty long and mind-numbingly boring task if you already know what you're doing, and the second option is not doing that. Can you guess which one I chose? By skipping it, I immediately gained a gun, tools, the UTV, and $1,100 and some more other stuff that isn't really important. All of these things will help me start my first task on this journey, getting more money, because in order to make money, there's always going to be some kind of startup cost. So what could I do? Well, around this map there are 3 different people that can hire you to do odd jobs. There are 2 ranchers located here, and a hunter here. These jobs tend to be more about taking your time rather than your money, so it's really good to do these in the early game. Each give their own special tasks, but the hunter stands out from the rest, because he will give me a rifle after completing his hardest task. Upon my arrival, he gave me 3 different tasks I could choose from: hunt, nimble rabbits, and shooting predators. I knew nimble rabbits was a task that I could get done quickly, so I chose to do that one first. I got a grip on the rabbit in world record time. Literally, this was incredible. I can't believe I got it this fast. I ran to the hunter's cabin to give his rabbit back, and he gave me $200. Needless to say, it was a pretty good incentive to start the next 2 tasks, so I activated the hunt and shooting predators quests, both of which require me to kill animals, so I decided to just do these passively while I explore the map, because the devs have changed a few things. The first 3 things I noticed were these muddy patches on the ground that would pop up occasionally. I don't know why they're here or what they're used for, but I bet I'll be using them in the future. And second, there's an actual town here now. From what I can tell, all the buildings are cosmetic, but they definitely make the game a little more lively. And lastly, I can't chop down all the trees on the map anymore. I used to be able to chop down all of them, but now I am restricted to only chopping down the ones that are on my land. I don't like this change. There isn't much of a practical reason why, but seeing as how chopping down trees was my main source of money on the last video, I kinda worry that I'll run out of them. As an American does, I eventually found myself at the hardware store. While I was there, I figured I'd buy some things I needed, but there was just one problem. I didn't have my UTV. I left it at the hunter's. So I went to pick it up, drove it back down to the hardware store, and oh my gosh, a bear.
What the? Bear!
Can I shoot you? After mag dumping my revolver into the bear's cranium, I effectively nullified the protection the bear's skull gave to its brain and euthanized it, giving me the rest of the meat I needed for one of my quests and adding another predator killed to my list. While we were talking about meat, I should mention that I don't have space for all of it, which is why the cooler is an amazing item. I can stash up the 24 pieces of meat in it while only physically taking up the space of maybe 1 or 2 pieces. I didn't use this last time, and I'm not even sure if it was in the game, but I'm very glad I can use it now. With this item, I transported the meat to the hunters and turned it in for another $200, marking off the cooler, coyote, elk, and bear off the long list I need to complete. After leaving the hunters, I looked for more predators to chip away at the hunter's last task, the one that would give me the rifle. While exploring though, I found one of the ranchers that could give me more quests, so I volunteered to deliver him his trailer, and took an embarrassingly long time to do it. But in the end, I was $120 in the green, and I could mark off the quest and fuel trailer as something I used to make money, so it wasn't all that bad. My next task from him was deconstruction, a challenge of a task, demolishing an entire building. Surely, this would take me ages. It took me less than a minute. And the reward was more than 3 times the trailer task, $400.
You're telling me I earned more than 3 times the amount doing that than doing that? No. I mean, I'm good with the payday, but what the flip, dude?
Next up was his under construction task. In short, he wants to build a barn, but to do it, he needs me to bring him wood planks, which is precisely the kind of task that me and my sawmill are prepared for. But before I did that, I found my last predator I needed to kill. So I went to the hunters to complete my task, and I got the hunting rifle as my reward. Most suitable for self-defense. So I think it's time to acquire some wood. self-defense.
Okay, right in between. Here we go.
The rancher's next and final task for me was named Treasures of the Ancients. He wants me to find 3 artifacts that have been scattered around the map in some kind of ancient war. I didn't have much luck looking for the artifacts, but I did find an interesting watchtower and the last rancher, and I was able to get finished with 2 of her tasks very quickly. For the first one, I had to clean up a bunch of garbage around her land, and for the second one, I had to kill 2 foxes, which spawned when I started the task, so I had no trouble locating them. I couldn't do her third and final task though, getting her 6 eggs and 2 pork, because I didn't have any animals, so I would need to work on getting them soon. In total though, I left this place $500 richer, and because of it, I could mark off a few more items. Next, I thought it would be a good idea to get a bunch of resources for some kind of expansion on my ranch. So overnight, wood time. And in the morning, concrete, metal, and glass. But what could I make with such an array of items? Or a better question, what is the staple thing that all good ranches must have? I think the answer to that question is a barn. With a barn, I could house pretty much any kind of animal and store just about anything I want. To make room for the barn, I demolished an old shed and a whole bunch of random junk. And after getting all my resources in the same spot, I could finally start construction. After finishing the barn, I decided I would also like to make a chicken coop, because I need eggs to finish part of the rancher's last task. Upon finishing the coop, I went to go pick up some chickens, and after supplying them with food and water, I hunted and chopped wood for money. It was only when I returned home when I realized my fatal mistake.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
See, at the start of the game, I skimmed over all the things that would be done for me if I skipped the tutorial, not paying too close attention, because I already knew what to do. In this paragraph of things, it mentions chickens. I had completely forgotten, and over the past 4 days, they have gotten more or less the big hungries.
I completely forgot. Oh boy. Yeah, that makes sense. That's honestly wild. I can't believe I forgot.
In grief, I bought some more food for my live chickens, assuring that this would never happen again. But my grief didn't last very long, because I need to focus on occupying the barn. I've collected the eggs, so now all I need is pork. But my bank account is not vast, so as any man would do in need of money, I expanded my carbon footprint and began wood time. With wood time money, I bought a trailer, which effectively doubled my carrying capacity and made trips delivering wood much more profitable. After my second wood selling trip, I had all the money needed to make a profitable pig farm, and bought all of the cheapest supplies I needed to process meat. As I was modifying the barn to better house my pigs, which I named Senor Pablo and Missy, I saw the schematic for an oil drill. I can't afford to make one right here and now, but I imagine they're pretty profitable and that I'll probably make some in the future. While doing normal farm maintenance, the water jug that I'd previously thought to be an unlimited supply of water had run out. I didn't know what to do. Hoping I didn't need to buy one of these jugs every single time I needed water, I frantically looked for a solution to rid me of my worries. And there it was. I could build a well, and I pretty much had everything I needed to make it. For the next day, I hunted and maintained the ranch, growing my pig farm. Wood time. After selling the wood, I bought some feed for the animals, and I assumed that Pablo and his wife appreciated it, because they were becoming quite orbular. Afterwards, I continued wood time. After selling another load of wood, I checked on Pablo and his wife, and while I was gone, they officially became parents. De los Pablitos. Good job, Pablo. And then Aiden joined. But his arrival was no coincidence. I had been chopping wood for literal hours in preparation. Enough wood to afford a vehicle. For Aiden, he is all work, no play.
Ever seen Tokyo Drift?
And he quickly became consumed with the idea of becoming an oil baron.
I know what we're doing. We will become oil barons.
So while I was scrounging for money, Aiden got a loan. Last time, getting a loan was the worst decision we could have made. We didn't know how to spend it, and because we didn't put the money into something useful, we stayed poor. But this time could be different. If oil in this game is anything like oil in real life, it's basically unlimited money. So taking a loan out for it is probably a pretty good decision. But this was clearly not first on Aiden's itinerary, because when he showed up to the ranch, his pickup had a brand new paint job, and he shared 2 words with me.
Second loan.
No matter how hard he wanted to get a second loan, thankfully the game wouldn't allow him, because he already took out the largest loan. So he decided to finally begin working on oil drills. While he did that, I tried to figure out why my meat grinding setup wasn't working. Earlier I put a chicken into the grinder and nothing popped out. The meat disintegrated into thin air. So I figured I needed a bucket to put at the end of the contraption. But there was no option to place the bucket on the end of it like there was on the water cooler or the well. After going to the hardware store, I saw the pan and looked up what it was used for, and it happened to be the correct meat catching device that I needed. While I was on my way home, Aiden also got his oil drill up and running, making us oil barons. I wasn't able to figure out how to use the sausage stuffer, but I was able to age the meatball that I got from the meat grinder using a storage cabinet, which turned it into salami, a higher value form of meat. Speaking of meat, Aiden must be thirsty for blood, because he never puts his guns away when he's around the pigs, and he keeps on mentioning how fat the pigs are getting. I mean, he's foaming at the mouth whenever he thinks of the payday these pigs will bring. Maybe he just needs something to work out for him to combat his rapidly declining credit score. But why would he want that something to be my son Pablo? Why would Aiden need it to be Pablo?
I will name him Pablo.
You have to see Pablo.
Pablo?
Don't kill Pablo. Don't kill him. Please, I beg of you.
Pablo's my son.
Now listen, Pablo's death was by far the most turmoil-inducing experience up until this point. But I must admit, I was a little curious to see how much meat we would get out of him.
What? Holy
Plentiful harvest.
Pablo!
In almost no time at all, I began work on turning Pablo into meatballs. And on the other side of the map, Aiden sold our first oil, crossing off a ton of items while steadily making a sizable profit on them. Back to the meat operation though, I eventually decided to look up how to make the sausages, and it was quite easy. Instead of taking the meat out of the pan, I needed to pick up the pan with the meat still inside, then I could put the meat in the sausage stuffer, which I imagine would give me a much higher payout. I can sell the meat pretty much anywhere on the map, but the people at Best Burger will buy 3 random items a day at a premium, adding a multiplier to the money I get from selling them. So I wanted to check what items I could sell for more, and today they happen to offer 50% more than normal for pork and chicken meatballs. Huh. Wait a minute. So I rushed over the ranch, got the meatballs, and was able to sell them for $60 each, crossing off another massive group of items. This would leave the sausage stuffer and the sausage variants for these meats to be checked off the list completely. Shortly after I started work on the sausages though, Aiden told me he found a chest with a holy grail inside.
I have the Holy Grail.
Or in other words, a goblet. It's a goblet, Aiden. I told him to meet me at the rancher's house to see if we could turn it into him. Sadly, he wouldn't accept just one of the artifacts, so it seemed like we needed all of the ancient treasures to make any money off the goblet. Before I returned home, I got more metal at the hardware store to make more meat aging cabinets. And on the morning of the next day, Aiden had once again found treasure.
I wonder how much money we're gonna get for doing the artifacts.
Billion.
Whoa. This is interesting.
He had found the helmet, the second item required for the Treasures of the Ancients quest.
Bulletproof.
While we were leaving the monument, Aiden, like an idiot, rammed into my trailer, forcing the UTV to spin out of control. Using the rocky hillside as a ramp, the UTV wedged itself between the world border and a tree.
Oh, this might be a bad... Uh-oh.
And the devs must have not intended on anyone being there, because the rock that the UTV landed on had zero traction. I couldn't move left nor right, forward or backward. So logically, the only way to get it out would be to pull off the same godsend of a jump and try to hit the UTV out of the wedge.
Yeah, I don't think that having the trailer. Oh.
I did not bring you something. No, go on. Go up. Hold on. Got you. Suplex.
But even with our relentless efforts, there was no way we could pull off the same jump. So in the end, we decided to leave it there, never to be used again, and it's all Aiden's fault. Around this time is where Aiden decided to log off. The work he got done in the time he was here was both aggravating and useful. But I still had the problem of not having my own car, and that was not something I was going to let happen for very long. So as soon as I got into town, I bought another UTV and painted it. I also bought 3 more chickens for eggs, because the eggs I had collected originally for the rancher's quest were no longer in my possession. For the rest of the day I focused on my animals, and after sleeping through the night, I was able to witness the miracle of life. Missy gave birth to her second round of piglets, 5 of them this time. Next, I checked Best Burger's deals, and today, pork sausage happened to be something they would buy for 1.8 times the normal price. And at my point of weakness, I sold the majority of Pablo.
$2,000. Weave. Oh.
With this influx of money, I expanded both my oil and pig business in the form of a new oil barrel and an electric sausage stuffer. On the next day, I swapped out the old sausage stuffer with the new one and checked on Aiden's oil rig. It was able to fill 2 barrels full of oil, totaling at $1,000 profit. With the money, I invested in a windmill. Windmills in this game will automatically fill all water bowls within a short distance, giving me more time to do other things. Next, I checked on the chickens to see if they had enough eggs to finish my last quest from the second rancher. And they did. So finally, after 10 plus hours of having this quest open, I was able to complete it. She gave me $180, and if I'm gonna be honest, this quest, not worth it at all. I would have made much more money if I just turned the pork into sausage. But I am doing everything in this game, so I guess I can check it off. I did it. Yay. Speaking of all the things I need to do, you've probably noticed that I haven't made much progress. There are still a ton of items left to use, and the common factor between doing any of them is their cost. So I started work on a new building where I could butcher my animals. I would equip this building with much more meat aging cabinets, which allows me to process meat much quicker, hopefully getting me the money I need. I ended up processing a chicken as well, because when I went to check on them, one of them was just dead, for no particular reason. By building the butchery, I became quite low on money, but I remembered about Aiden's second oil drill, and I got quite excited just to see how much oil it had dug up, because I hadn't checked on it at all. When I got there, I was greeted by sadness. A very unfinished oil drill. So I went into town and bought the metal I needed to complete it, leaving me with even less money than I already considered to be a low amount. Returning to the ranch, I came to find that Missy had another round of piglets, and some of the piglets had become quite chunky. So I began butchering them, and continued to do so for the next hour. In the end, I made over $3,000 in sausage sales, and another $1,000 in oil sales. So I bought an electric meat grinder to pair up with my electric sausage stuffer, for even more efficiency. Now this is where I was really starting to feel it. The significance of this challenge. I knew I had several more hours of this rinse and repeat cycle to go through, in order to even purchase everything I needed to use. So, to give me the slightest bit of an edge, I bought another pair of electric tools so I could have 2 setups running at the same time, and I also bought the supplies needed to make an extension on my cramped butchery. For my hard work and about an hour of labor, I was rewarded with $11. With $11,000, I can buy some of the most expensive things in this game, some of which seem like a terrible thing to buy. So, add to cart and purchase. I bought a straight truck and a car trailer, the 2 most expensive items in this game. I wanted to combine these to make some kind of super storage vehicle, but the straight truck doesn't have a hitch because it's a piss vehicle. So I'm just gonna give it to whoever my next ranch hand is. Next, I bought the big truck, because it was the second biggest vehicle in this game, and it had a hitch, so I could actually use the massive trailer without spinning out like I would on the UTV. Because logic.
Hello everybody, my name is Five Nights at Freddy's.
Now, believe it or not, but this is actually not Markiplier, but rather my friend Daxton. Upon his arrival, I told him the game plan. Get cows, multiply cows, get beef, sell said beef, and get a whole bunch of money. But we didn't get to all of it because cows take multiple hours to give birth and even more to fully mature, and we didn't have much time. So instead, Daxton came up with this really funny joke called crashing as much as he possibly can. Because for whatever reason, no matter where he is, I can hear it.
You're every single one.
Exhilarating. While we were goofing off with guns, I killed one of the cows. I can't say I didn't see it coming, but in my defense, I was quite bored and it was getting late. So I went to bed, thinking of what real cows might do if they ever found out. When I got back on, I bought 2 more cows in hopes that the bigger sample size would allow for a greater chance of breeding. Oh my gosh. While I waited, I sold several coolers of pork and barrels of oil. And after running out of my fully grown pigs, I had quite the amount of money. So I began thinking about what else I could do on the side while I wait for my cows. I thought about gardening. It had a low cost of entry and I could build a greenhouse, which was quite appealing to me at the time. On my last round of getting supplies for the greenhouse, I bought a fuel trailer for me to pick up later. Another thing I bought in town was name tags. I can't really make any money by adding them to an animal, but I use them anyway, naming both the male cows in the pen to make sure I didn't accidentally slaughter one, because they would be more expensive to replace. On my route to get seeds, I picked up oil, the fuel trailer, and filled up the fuel trailer. Finally. After planting the seeds, I gave them water and a roof, and while I waited for the plants to grow, I bought everything else I needed to use from the hardware store. I was making grand progress. For the next hour, I cared for my plants until all of them were done growing. When they were finished, I sold them for basically nothing. I wouldn't recommend plants if you're trying to make money in this game. But by selling these, I was able to mark off the composter, the fruits and the vegetables, their seeds, glass, and the cheap table saw because I used them to make part of the greenhouse. I didn't count the glass in the pork sales earlier because it didn't actually make a difference. It was entirely cosmetic. Now that I was done with the low-tier baby plants, I wanted to prepare for something a little later down the line, farming field crops. I still had a bunch of attachments and trailers at the hardware store, so I bought their respective vehicles and transported them. These also happened to be the absolute slowest things in this game, and I had to make several trips, so it took a lot of time. And 2 of the trailers were stuck together, so I had to buy them again. Around now is when I started to notice my frames. They had dropped significantly. How could that be? I mean, I've only built a few things. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I haven't checked on the pigs in like 10 hours. Just look at the amount of walking money bags. And in combination with my cow farm, I wouldn't have money troubles ever. So I made the executive decision to bring a massacre to the ranch. While exterminating my livestock, I thought it would be a good idea to have dairy cows make milk in the background. I will occasionally spend time taking care of them, but before I made any large strides, I needed to once again expand the butchery. And also, Aiden's here. Aiden's help here would be tremendous, because we would process meat, and more meat. After an hour, I had just about had it. So, when presented with an act of tomfoolery,
Hop in.
I obliged. The plan was simple. Me and Aiden would kill the most dangerous animal in this game, a bear, with the least lethal weapon in the game, a stunner. It doesn't do much damage, but if we could hit the bear maybe 10 or so times, we think it would do the trick. We just need to find a bear to try it on.
Shoot.
And it quickly overpowered us. On the second attempt,
Oh, 9/11.
it happened again. There was no way we would be able to do this normally. We would need an unfair advantage. This is where the piss truck comes in. If we could lure the bear to the back of the truck, we might be able to hit it without it being able to hit us.
Hello? Yeah. Aiden.
Grab the.
Yeah!
We did it!
We did it!
USA!
This was a great success. We could mark the stunner and the straight truck off the list, and it was a good break from processing meat. But all good things must come to an end, and I eventually had to get back to it.
Jesse,
What?
big news.
Big news.
Grab the helmet.
You have the
Place.
dagger.
No, I found a dog.
No, I found a dog.
Sir, I found the hidden treasure of the ancient warriors.
Holy.
At the end of processing all the meat, 5 days later, I had amassed quite the amount of animal products. But I don't really need to sell anything, because, well, I didn't have much else to buy, apart from a few vehicles, so me and Aiden bought some vehicles and then proceeded to discover the greatest breakthrough in aeronautical engineering.
You're not touching the ground.
Oh my god!
The next and last animals I need are goats, so I bought a male and a female and let them do their thing while I work on my next big focus, mass-scale agriculture. This one sorta scares me. I haven't used any of these items before, so I planned on making a few mistakes, but my brain is massive, so I got the hang of it quite quickly. I used the hooky thing first, the cultivator, and then I used the planter-looking thingy, the seeder. I tried using the sprinkler to water them. Wow, you actually got that one. What'd you say? Nothing. Don't worry about it. Anyway, I needed a source of water, so I built a large fan, a windmill. Are we gonna have a problem? No. Really? Because you keep on interrupting me. Well, you're using the wrong names. I mean, what kind of ranger actually expects to make any money if they don't? Good old reliable. Anyway, I used the fertilizer in the trailer to fertilize my sunflowers and corn. Now for the crops, it was just a waiting game, and I could focus on something else.
Cheese.
There are 6 kinds of cheese in this game. Half of them are cow-based cheese, and the other half are goat-based. I make them by putting milk in a pan, sometimes with mold, cooking it, and then putting it on a shelf to age. When I was done with the cow cheese, I was able to harvest my sunflowers and replace their spot with wheat, the last crop. After finishing my goat cheese, I noticed that the wheat hadn't really grown, and the sprinklers weren't making the soil wet like they did with the other crops. This was worrying me. So I went to the general store to sell my sunflowers, but also to buy more wheat seeds and sprinklers in case my wheat was bugged. In hindsight, I probably should have let the wheat that was planted just do its thing in case it was growing, but just slowly. But I demolished most of it with my cultivator and replaced it with the new wheat. While the wheat hopefully does its thing, I had an obligation to fulfill. See, on December 13th of 2023, I posted a short about our dear friend and reason for success, Pablo. All hail Pablo. In the short, I mentioned that for every interaction it got via like or subscribe, I would buy a chicken. And at the time of recording, I needed to buy 53 chickens. This is perfect, because it just so happens that I forgot about the chickens again. So I never got the chance to use the ovoscope. So me and Aiden got in our trucks and our biggest of trailers and got some chickens. Alright, go! Oh my gosh.
Take it a wide, take it a wide. How are you gonna get out then? I bet you I can jump this car in there.
I bet you can't.
The power of the pickup truck.
You don't have the balls. Whoa, wait, what? Oh, there's a mound there.
Should be behold.
I had no faith.
Some myth.
After me and Aiden gave the chickens a home, we made a sort of religious stance on cabbage and how it should be treated as a useless food. Cabbage was not to be eaten, but viewed, preferably through bulletproof windows. Good news, the wheat is growing. Bad news, it's freaking slow! But this did give me time to sell the corn that I had collected earlier, and while I was at the hardware store, I saw that I had left the gas trailer there. So I went to pick it up and also got the supplies for beekeeping, the last major thing to do before the big sale. Locating the bees was much easier than I thought it would be. I just found a hill and used my divine intuition to guide me. I got the bees in a hive frame with little effort, and upon returning home, I found that some of my wheat was fully grown.
Excuse me.
So I quickly harvested it. But before I took it into town to sell, me and Aiden wanted to see if the lawnmower could chop up some of the crop, because there weren't any controls on the lawnmower. So if it could do something, we thought chopping crops would be it. So I let Aiden test it out.
It's not working.
Ah.
Let me try the
The
fully
lawnmower
grown.
might genuinely just be useless.
I transported and sold the wheat, marking off the rest of the agricultural supplies. Going back to the chickens though, I still needed to use the ovoscope, so I checked some of the eggs and eventually found a fertilized one. I put it in the chicken coop and stared at it for 2 hours. Once it hatched, I had to wait even more for it to turn into a fully grown chicken, but I wasn't going to stare at it for another 2 hours. So I checked on our oil drills, then I checked on the bees, and one of the hives was full of honey. I was hoping the bees would populate the other frames, but no. If I wanted a full beehive, I would need to find 4 other nests to take bees from, but I didn't want to. This game has cooked, boiled, and deep fried me. I was ready to be done, and by my rules, I only need to use everything once as long as I make money, so I wasn't going to worry about it. I put the frame into the Centrifugal Force 9000 and extracted the honey. Since waiting for the baby chick to grow up wasn't that much of an appealing thing, I left my computer on while I went to sleep that night. When I got back to it in the morning, my game was laggy, and my baby chick was nowhere to be found. However, upon closer inspection, it looked like it grew up and lodged itself in the door and died there. Most of the chickens and goats were dead. So without many options, I gathered the eggs, goat meat, chicken, and processed them. Once it was all processed, I put it in the piss truck and headed down to Best Burger. More than 1,000 items and over $80,000 for them. Once I sold them, I couldn't help but sigh in relief. This sale marks off all the items that appear on the screen now. Ovoscope, compact cooker, car trailer, animal trailer, male and female dairy cows, beef cows, and goats, milking machine, milk jug, white, blue, and pink mold, hive frame, bee smoker, wooden barrel, ATV, sedan, SUV, the 6 cheeses and curds, and the last 12 kinds of meat. All of these items helped me in one way or another, but you may notice there are 2 more things I haven't used. I never got the chance to use agricultural medicine and the horses. The medicine just straight up didn't work. Even if I planted cabbage and made it unhealthy on purpose, for whatever reason, I wasn't able to use it. Other people had a similar problem with seemingly no solution, so I didn't end up trying any further. As for horses, they're useless. And finally, after all this time, I could do one last thing. Fireworks. If you're curious, here are some stats that I think you might find interesting, and if you like this video, I'm sure you'll like the ones that I post in the future. So if you don't want to miss out on them, please consider subscribing. And as always, big things are coming.